Hi, I'm Abbie Fentress Swanson, a grad student at the San José State University iSchool. After President Trump issued an executive order in March to shut down the Institute of Museum and Library Services, I started wondering what the IMLS is and what it funds. So I reached out to an expert.
My name is Patrick Sweeney. I am the digital director for EveryLibrary.
EveryLibrary is a nonprofit advocacy organization supporting public and school libraries across the U.S. One of their campaigns calls on Congress to stop Trump's attacks on federal funding for libraries.
The Institute of Museum and Library Services is the only federal funding source for libraries across the country. Back in 2016 to 2020, Trump's first term, he zeroed out funding for the Institute of Museum and Library Services every single year that he was in office. So we knew that it was on his hit list. Trump didn't succeed from 2016 to 2020. He didn't succeed in eliminating that funding. And so, he did the executive order, which half worked, half didn't, kind of, sort of, were in limbo. There's various, legal cases surrounding it. He also is, in his proposed budget, he's also proposing eliminating federal funding for IMLS. So ultimately, if the EO doesn't kill it, the federal funding does. He also fired the head of IMLS. He put somebody who has no experience in libraries, no understanding of libraries, no background in libraries or museums in charge of it. Somebody who, was just going to do what Trump told him to do. They laid off half the staff, or people got their rift, so it's being dismantled one way or another right now. We don't know where it's going to go.
I asked Patrick about the kinds of programs we might lose if Trump defunds the Institute of Museum and Library Services.
Interlibrary loan, that's going to go away. Right now, I, as a library user from almost any library in the country, public library or an academic library or an archive, I can go into the library. Even a lot of law libraries participate in this. A lot of medical libraries participate in interlibrary loan. I can go into any library in the country and I can say, hey, I want a book like this, but it's only available, in the Detroit Law Library. And then they can ship me that book through interlibrary loan. I can then use it and send it back, and that's going to be gone. There's a lot of services to veterans, returning veterans, that's funded through this grant funding as pilot programs to see if they work, to see if there's benefits, and then to help expand that program to other libraries. If there's new collections, if there's new technology, like when AI comes out, what are libraries going to do with it? Well, we need a testing space to do it.
The IMLS funds patent, law, and business databases too. It's just a ton of information that Americans could lose access to if the IMLS goes away. EveryLibrary also has a campaign to keep Trump out of the National Archives.
Trump fired the National Archivist because he kind of blamed her and is punishing, is attacking the archives for his stolen documents case. Even though Colleen wasn't even in office at that time. She wasn't the National Archivist at that time. And then we also saw the attacks on the Library in Congress.
It's a lot. Anyway, back to the Institute of Museum and Library Services. During Trump's first term, EveryLibrary began to educate the public about the IMLS. They started getting signatures on petitions, urging people to email their legislators and write letters to the editor, all in support of libraries. Patrick says it's working. Members of the public are speaking out more now than ever before. The next step is to elect pro-library leaders at the ballot box.
And that's really where the battle is. So, we released a report on what was happening around book banning, and looking at the groups that were pro-book banning. And what we found is that there's like a traveling road show that's going around from library to library. It's very organized. They're, for example, reading books that aren't even in libraries, or demanding that books get banned from libraries that aren't even in the libraries because it's from a list that they're being supplied, And what they're able to do is go into a community and say, we're protecting your children from porn. Donate $5 today. And they're raising huge amounts of money from that. But they're also identifying supporters And they're using that identification of supporters and the money that they raise, like Patriot Mobile and Moms for Liberty and these organizations, to elect people into positions.
Patrick says dozens of states are also passing laws that make it legal to arrest a librarian if parents have complaints about books on the shelves.
And the books that are being targeted, like, I mean, imagine a librarian being arrested because their, Diary of Anne Frank or whatever was on their shelves, but not even that. Like, there's a book about seahorses that book banners were really up in arms about. There's even video of them talking about how the librarians are grooming children because it's a science book about seahorses and the male horse carries the young, and of course that's trans indoctrination. And then um, you know there was one woman who's on video talking about how the book talks about how the seahorses intertwine their tails and how that was too sexy for her kids, and so like that's sexualizing our children or whatever. And so she was demanding like all kinds of crazy stuff. And then more locally, we're seeing libraries being defunded entirely because of the books on the shelf. Librarians are being harassed. Librarians are being sent death threats. They're getting mailed bullets to their home addresses, bomb threats called into libraries. People are showing up in full like military tactical gear and bulletproof vests and fully armed into libraries to like yell at you know 50-year-old librarians about some book on the shelf, or what I mean. It's just all so silly and preposterous and over the top that it's almost like unimaginable that it's happening. But it is across the country. We're seeing it from California to New York. So
If you're interested in getting more involved, every library can help.
if you're facing book bans in your community, or censorship or attacks on your library, we have a platform called Fight for the First where you can create petitions. Any petition that is created there will back with up to $1,000 in funding to help you get it signed. We'll provide you with pro bono training, pro bono consulting, all of that kind of stuff that you need to help organize your community and fight back and win against that. You can sign up for our email list at action.everylibrary.org. At action.everylibrary.org, we have petitions. You can make donations. You can sign the pledge to vote for libraries. You can do all those things, which, will start letting you know about issues that are happening in libraries near you, in your state or nationally. Clicking to share all that stuff on social media is huge. And I think that's very, very important, is just helping to raise awareness, asking your friends to sign petitions, asking your friends to take action, asking your friends to write letters to the editor, spreading your network and getting your networks involved.
Thanks to Patrick Sweeney, Digital Director of EveryLibrary, for breaking down what we could lose if federal funding for libraries goes away. You can find out more about the work that EveryLibrary is doing to support libraries on their website. Just go to everylibrary.org. Thanks for watching this video, and I'll see you next time.